If you shouted Sharon with a chew it in your mouth, you'd just sound like Ozzy, wouldn't you? So, in case you've been living under the proverbial rock for the past couple of weeks, Ozzy Osbourne passed away recently before we made this video, and we just wanted to do a little video just talking about our own personal histories and our memories of Ozzy and Black Sabbath and his life and all these related things, because I think he's one of the few guys that transcends genres of music. I think everyone loves Ozzy, even if you're just like a pop guy or a rock guy. Everyone loves those songs, don't they? Everyone likes Crazy Train. Everyone knows Ozzy. Everyone remembers the Osbournes. It's just one of those cultural things, isn't it?
When you're a boundary breaker and you sort of put yourself across not only genres but only different sorts of films as well.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's going to spot you, and you're going to fit into whatever their little boxes you can cater towards.
Yeah.
You know, so heavy metal people. And people who like Adam Sandler films.
Yeah.
They tend to go
Yeah. Do you remember the first time you ever heard of Ozzy or heard his name?
I think besides just the general ethos of who he was as a person, like, I think seeing, you know, obviously bat-eating head jokes on South Park and Simpsons at a very young age, sort of, and then asking who that person was, or he's a musician. And then it was actually our mate Smashley Farmer, who has made repeated sort of things in these. He played sort of Black Sabbath to me initially while we were skateboarding when I was a kid. No, it's all right. That's the first time I've heard. But the ethos has always been there. Yeah. Like Elvis, like the Beatles. Yeah. They're from birth, they just exist, and they've got their right already.
Yeah, and everyone's grandma has heard of Ozzy, haven't they?
And that was 1994, so it was pretty cemented in life there.
Yeah. No, for me it was Guitar Hero 4, Guitar Hero World Tour. Remember that game? That was the first one where you could do the instruments other than guitar. There was drums, bass, vocals, and that was the really cool thing about that game, was that for certain songs they'd scanned in the actual celebrities. The celebrities had come and done motion capture for the game. So Ozzy and Zakk Wylde came and did mocap for the game, and there was Crazy Train and Mr. Crowley on there. And for both those songs, when you pick those songs, Ozzy, the game version of Ozzy came out and sung them, and the game version of Zakk Wylde came out and did the guitar.
I'm sure that happened with Kiss on Tony Hawk's, didn't it? Yeah. Tony Hawk's Underground.
Yeah, it's exactly, and Phil Collins on Vice City. That was my first time hearing Ozzy, and I think those two tracks, I think especially Crazy Train, was the only track in the game when we used to play it as multiplayer that was fun on all the instruments. Yeah. Like on those games, obviously it's Guitar Hero, the only good instrument for him was guitar, but the drums on that song were fun to play with, those like weird plastic drums. It was a fun song to sing in the Guitar Hero mic.
I never got to have a go at that.
Really?
Yeah, I always hate it because you want to do more than it wants you to do, you know.
Yeah, and because the technology was so bad, there was like a half a second delay, so you had to play out of time to play in time, which that's for another video. But I just remember finding him through that game and just seeing his black hair and seeing those tinted glasses he had on. Yeah. And just wondering, you know, like I saw the name Ozzy Osbourne, but you know, I think what's really powerful about discovering music as a child is that, you know, you imagine what they're like outside of the game. So I imagined who this Ozzy person was, and I invented this whole thing in my head about this Ozzy guy that was in the game. And that's more powerful than anything you can read or you can sort of see photos of. When you imagine the backstory, like after playing the game, I asked my dad who this Ozzy guy was, and he told me the backstory. And I just imagined that story in my head and how it must have looked like him biting the head off. And in reality, that moment will have just taken 10 seconds. You know, he will have caught the bat, bit it, thrown it out. That lasted 5 seconds, but in my head it was this long drawn out routine, almost like where he picks it up and he sort of holds it in his hand and it's still alive, and he slowly tears the head off, you know, and rips it out. And I imagined it as this thing that took like hours, you know.
I was going to say, he doesn't describe it like that in his book.
No, but that, being young, when you hear someone did that, that's how you imagine it.
Of course,
you know?
But again, it was like I grew to believe when I was shown, say, Iron Man and Paranoid, first of all, that these were the staple tracks. And they were the ones that, like, everyone in the world knows these. They didn't necessarily, but they just became like smoke on the water to me. They were the sort of the best of hits you hear on the radio. And then I had to really sort of find other ways I didn't like the redo of Iron Man, that was very bad. But I saw Ozzy Osbourne more on television, not even in his own programme, but like on Viva La Bam and Jackass and all the other things affiliated with skateboarding and the alternative sort of American movement at the time when I was a younger boy. And it's he was just dominating. Now he didn't even do anything. He just showed up and said something. Or, you know, but he just had to be there to make it the full part of the event. It couldn't be done without Ozzy just existing and being there.
Yeah, definitely. I've forgotten that. I remember, again, that was one of the other first encounters with Ozzy. It's the Viva La Band, the skate park tour, where they end up at Ozfest, don't they, in one of them. And I remember that now. Yeah, I've totally forgotten that.
Ozfestival?
Yeah. I remember that. I remember that really well. And again, there were always riffs, you know, like when you met someone before I could play an instrument, when I'd meet someone who played guitar, especially electric guitar, and I'd say, play me something, they'd just play Iron Man, won't they? It's one of the stock riffs that everyone...
because half of it's Smoke on the Water.
Yeah, because all the cool kids could play, all the cool people would just do that riff. And I remember someone, one of my brother's friends, showing me how to play it, and he was like, no, do it all on the low E string right up here, so you get the thick tone. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. This is so heavy.
I just didn't understand how certain, you know, acts and how people are. Ozzy being Ozzy was not necessarily widely accepted, but it became part of this trait or personality. You know, it's like it's a standard of who a person could be. They're always compared to Ozzy. If someone's acting like Ozzy Osbourne, or they're being Ozzy Osbourne, you can't possibly get to where he got. You know,
I think it's when music critics or people say the next so and so.
Yeah,
you know, like they say about another metal artist, he's the next. They're the next Ozzy. They're the next Black Sabbath. That's how you know you've really made it, don't you? When someone says they're the next so and so, you know, that's how you know that you've transcended the barriers of time.
What was the next?
A word beginning with C that we can't say on YouTube. The next big set of See You Next Tuesday. I think.
But I found his prolific work with other people is another thing that set him above the rest. You know, doing these long, slow ballad duets, not only with his daughter, Elton John, and stuff like that. And people like. Even as a kid at the time, I remember we were like, "Oh, what's he doing that sort of thing for?" But then all those people that liked that sort of stuff liked it, and then had a place for Ozzy in their heart. You know, nothing to do with heavy metal.
Yeah, that song Changes was on all the time on Kerrang. It was every day, heavy rotation. And I remember the video really well. She's sat in the chair, and then halfway through, another chair spins round. Oh my god, it's Ozzy! But even then, at that point, I looked at that song and I thought, he's really old. Blimey, who's this old dude? But he wasn't actually at the time. He was just like maybe in his early 50s. I think he's one of the few musicians that was always on an upward, you know, throughout his entire life. He just kept getting more famous and more famous. You know, from, let's say, Black Sabbath, he was constantly, every time you'd hear of him, he'd be a bit more famous, you know, and that obviously crescendo with the Osbournes. When that happened, he just exploded again.
Yeah. And I just found that even some of if you read his biography, which is very good, I think obviously Black Sabbath and then going into Ozzy and then the Osbournes, but all the other albums and little bits in between sort of a bit unsung as to how much it actually did boost and how involved it was. Yeah. And I know a lot of artists, they often say how many days a year they were, like 300 days a year they were on it, you know. I couldn't say how much it was for them. I think it was probably most of the time.
Do you know what was really funny about his book was, I read his book and it's a brilliant read. It's probably the best rock biography ever written. You know, he had help from a ghostwriter.
Nice and easy to read, which is important.
Sort of falls off the page, doesn't it? And he's very critical of himself, which is really good in that book, because in a lot of these rock star biographies they say, oh, and then we did this and we were so great, but he's critical even of his classic material, isn't he? And he says,
he wasn't happy with it.
And he says, I should have been nicer to my first wife, I should have done this, and that's really good, that's really honest. But I remember reading the book and thinking, this is good, and then he did a documentary called I Am Ozzy, and I watched it, and word for word he said what was on the page of the book.
Is that what was in the theatre?
Yeah, word for word, and I was like, whoever ghostwrote the book just interviewed him, filmed it, and then wrote it from that. But I couldn't believe it was like word for word.
It's been AI now, wasn't it?
His
voice.
Did you see that one about his trip to Japan?
No, tell us.
This were a good one. So he goes, in the mid '80s, he went on a trip to Japan. I think it was Howard Stern doing the interview. Howard Stern's always a bit cheeky, and he's a bit rude. And, yeah. He's a bit rude, and he said something like, Ozzy, does Sharon let you have other women in the bedroom? And Sharon's like, no, absolutely not, sort of thing. And then Ozzy said, one time we were on the plane, we went over to Japan, and I'd forgotten that Sharon was with me. So I went out anyway, I picked up this girl and I brought her back to the hotel room, opened the door, and I'd forgotten Sharon was stood right there. She knocked the girl out, and then she broke a photograph frame over my head to punish me. And it was just the way he said it in that like dry Aussie delivery that just made like such a, frankly, a horrific event just so funny.
No, I found his even his exploits though, the ones that weren't carried so well at the time, like disgracing monuments and so on and stuff like that. he always seemed to have a bit of a victim side. It's not my fault. I didn't mean to. And I think that sort of got praised because people knew he wasn't really a villain.
Yeah,
he was just a bit of a pisshead who didn't think straight away.
Definitely.
With no disrespect, we many people ourselves.
And he himself would admit that, the booze made him do stupid things which he regrets.
Yeah, and end of the day, it's like with all rock stars and all people in life, they've got these things. It's what kept him upright in some fashion. Yeah, something kept him alive to keep doing it.
Yeah. And I think he's one of the very few that he really did care about his fans. I think a lot of people don't.
I mean, that's true. Because he always says, I couldn't have done it.
Yeah. And he sort of did it, and he sort of... Obviously, doing the last concert in Birmingham, it would have been easy for them to do it in LA, wouldn't it? Or somewhere like that, do it in Madison Square Garden. Yeah. It'd be easier to do it there, really, than to fly everyone over for that one show for his last gig.
Of course, especially with everyone riled up for Judas Priest.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Just had to, and I've known it in people and animals and relatives. They hang on for a specific event or something, and then they feel they can let go. And it was a couple of weeks after, but he wasn't a well man. But I think he was holding on for that.
Yeah. That one last big outing.
Hulk Hogan died. So anyway,
there was that great Simpsons meme, wasn't there, where they're looking at the lamb, and that one comes in front of it. They're looking at the lamb and they're going, and then it was Ozzy's died, and then another lamb sheep comes in front and it's Hulk Hogan's died. It's like, get out of the way, you, and Homer shoves it back out the way. Essential Ozzy Sabbath tracks.
I mean, it's not even a cliche at all, but just Crazy Train is so important to me. It's the ultimate, get up and go banger, fuck you banger, happy banger, whatever banger you need. It's just got it, and it's got the absolute dynamic of and at the same time, which are two very important dynamics in a pop rock track. Next one,
Well, same album, Mr. Crowley. I think it's his best. I think
by album wise, Blizzard of Oz is probably the ultimate of Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne.
It's the turning point where it's got the fusion of the heavy metal and the pop.
It has.
It's not too one way.
And if that lineup could have sort of produced more and more, I don't know where they'd have gone. And then sort of even Back at the Moon is a pretty good runner up, and not many people would put that there. But cause it did get very 80s, didn't it?
No, I think Mr. Crowley, after listening to it again when he passed away, I thought this is the best guitar solo ever. And I could hear so many other solos that had nicked from it. I could hear so many other songs which had then borrowed something from it. And that's the other thing when you listen to Sabbath. For me, now it's one of those ones where you have to pretend that Iron Maiden doesn't exist, that Metallica doesn't exist. Because when you listen to Sabbath, it just sounds like a lesser heavy, just sounds like a slower and less heavy version of Master of Puppets or something. But you have to get into that headspace of none of that existed. This is Flower Power. We're just coming out of Flower Power.
And everything. The hair for it. And
everything being happy-clappy. And
God, those trousers. The Wizard.
Yeah.
That's absolutely one of the quintessentials for me. Shows a good dexterity. Do you know what I mean?
And I think that they're one of the few bands that have a title song. The song Black Sabbath has long been one of my favourites.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just because of how much they do with just 3 notes. That riff's just 3 notes. The sort of atmosphere and heaviness they make with just those 3 notes is just brilliant.
That first album was so proggy.
Yeah.
And it was second as well. Paranoid one as well, but but
it was in the air. Everyone was having a bit of prog rock at that time, wasn't it? It was just
because they had to stop and have a smoke for a second. What was that?
Exactly.
Bit of a mission.
So if you want to take away anything from this video, you've not read I Am Ozzy. That is the one recommendation.
And hopefully there'll be a new produced version.
I think they should
I think they will reissue because it stops at 2001 or something. I don't know if it's pretty soon.
But it'd be one of those. I wouldn't mind if his son or Sharon wrote the other half. I wouldn't mind that. If the first half was till 2000 or till the quad accident, and then it's like, okay, this is Ozzy's perspective. Then after that, if they were to put their perspective of what that last chunk of his life was like, I think that'd be really interesting.
I think it will have been documented.
Yeah, definitely. And I think
there'll be a film, there'll be a documentary.
Yeah.
And then in 10 years' time, when copyrights run out, it'll be all on the every advert. There'll be an Ozzy Osbourne song.
An AI, it'll be an AI Ozzy.
We'll have hologram Ozzy Tornuk.
Yeah. Don't say that. There will be now a hologram Ozzy.
If I'm I'm right, we're going to go back to this video.
Yeah. In a couple of years, we'll put a video of we were right. Hologram Ozzy tour. Hologram Ozzy tour. Yeah.
The thumbnail.
Yeah. We stole it. Oh well, thank you so much for watching us ramble about Ozzy for a good chunk of time. We hope we hope you've enjoyed it. Put a comment down below of your own Ozzy memories, your favourite Ozzy stories, or just things how you discovered the great man. Everyone's got a good Ozzy story, about how they first heard about him back in the day.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think there's one thing to take from it is people such as Ozzy can. His best and his heart was always, in the right place for all the years. People make mistakes and people are idiots and do very silly things.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, let's have a Hennessy.
Yeah. Let's enjoy some non-alcoholic beer and eat some rodents. Thanks for watching.